The women's 300-meter race at the Mityng Ambasadorów Białostockiego i Podlaskiego Sportu became one of the most technically fascinating sprint battles of 2025. In this analysis, we examine how Poland defeated the United States with superior rhythm control, better energy distribution, and incredible closing speed in front of a loud home crowd. The video focuses on the unique demands of the 300 meters, including curve running, lactate management, acceleration timing, and the transition from raw speed into sprint endurance. We also break down the moment the Americans began losing momentum and explain how the Polish athletes completely took over the race during the final straight.
300 ma zresztą w tym roku już wynik na 300 zaliczany po drodze, na 400 z tego biegu w Monako 35,98. Basat Hemidę zapamiętałem, Egipcjankę, stąd, że mocno intensywnie rozpoczyna. Biegła w tym biegu w Monako. Teresa Petržilkowa z Czech na torze trzecim i Karolina Łozowska na torze drugim.
Wczoraj było 500, potem było 200, to dzisiaj 300.
Dzisiaj 300. No taki cykl Karoliny. Wczoraj 2 razy startowała, raz nadając tempo na 800 metrów, no a potem biegała na 200. Natalia będzie goniła Salwę Nasser. I przypomnijmy, rekord świata 34,41, rekord Polski 35,52. W ubiegłym roku tu Natalia Kaczmarek 35,99 i tyle wynosi rekord Mityngu Ambasadorów Białostockiego i Podlaskiego Sportu.
Nasser, Bukowiecka,
Ja pamiętam ten świetny bieg
Petržilkowa, Łozowska. Przeczytałem od toru
72.
do drugiego. Rok temu w Paryżu.
Ale wiemy, że będzie trudno na Mistrzostwach Świata, na Globie, na Mistrzostwach Stanów 48,90, a więc widać, że
Te mocne biegi to chyba przed nami. Teraz parę diamentowych lig jeszcze do końca sierpnia, także te wyniki na pewno na listach się zmienią.
Sydney, do tego Mary Lady Paulino, Salwa Nasser, ale to nie wszystkie najmocniejsze jeszcze wymieniłem, chociaż 3, powiedzmy, najtrudniejsze chyba do pokonania.
Najbardziej utytułowane i faworytki.
Natalia na 5. torze, przed nią Salwa Nasser, za Natalią Basat Hemida z Egiptu, a na 7. torze mamy jeszcze Amerykankę Pari Peoples i Aleksandrę Formelę na 8. torze. No i już pobiegły i Nasser ruszyła w strasznym
jak
tempie.
rakieta.
Ale tego się spodziewaliśmy. Też Hamida biegnie bardzo szybko, 100 metrów za nimi. Teraz ten łuk. Natalia na pewno w drugiej części dystansu objawi swoją moc. Na to liczymy. Nasser prowadzi, co do tego nie ma wątpliwości, ale Natalia już jest na równi z Hamidą i teraz Natalia do przodu. Ostatnie metry. I kto będzie najbardziej wytrzymały? Natalia Bukowiecka! Natalia wygrywa ten bieg w czasie 35,53, a zatem rekord Polski na 300 metrów. Pokonuje wicemistrzynię olimpijską na 400 u siebie.
52 był rekord Polski, także poczekamy, czy będzie korekta. Jest 51, jest rekord Polski, brawo. No ale cenne zwycięstwo z Nasser. No i mamy Nasser 35,85, no ale ruszyła bardzo, bardzo mocno.
Chyba nie wytrzymała po prostu, bo przyjechała tutaj, chciała tu przyjechać i atakować rekord świata. Sporo zabrakło. 3. Hamida, Aleksandra Formela 37,72. To w tym roku, oprócz oczywiście osiągnięć Natalii Kaczmarek, Natalii Bukowieckiej, jest najlepsze osiągnięcie Polski. No i Karolina Łozowska też poniżej 38 sekund, 37,88. No a 38 sekund to jest taka granica przyzwoitości na 300 metrów. Fajnie.
To się zgadza. Także myślę, że to cenne zwycięstwo, jeśli chodzi o rywalizację, bo tak naprawdę na tym poziomie to bardzo małe rzeczy, pojedyncze zwycięstwa nad danymi zawodnikami bardzo ważą już w tej finalnej rozgrywce, w finale. Tu trzeba budować pewność siebie, trzeba ten ranking swój prywatny i rozkład innych zawodników ustawiać sobie pod ten bieg finałowy Mistrzostw Świata i na pewno to jest bardzo, bardzo dobry prognostyk przed Mistrzostwami Świata.
Rekordy życiowe.
The women's 300 meters at the Mityng Ambasadorów Białostockiego i Podlaskiego Sportu in Białystok delivered one of the most technically fascinating sprint races of the 2025 season. Unlike the traditional 200 meters or 400 meters, the 300-meter distance forces athletes into a completely different tactical and physiological challenge. It combines the explosive aggression of a long sprint with the brutal endurance demands usually associated with the final stages of the 400 meters. In Poland, that combination exposed weaknesses, rewarded efficiency, and ultimately produced a dominant performance that completely overwhelmed the American challengers. From the opening gun, the race immediately developed at an aggressive pace. The American athletes attacked the first 100 meters with clear intent, attempting to establish early control before entering the demanding final section of the race. Their acceleration phases were explosive, especially through the opening bend, where the natural instinct in a 300-meter race is to treat the event almost like an extended 200 meters. But that strategy quickly became dangerous. The problem with the women's 300 meters is that athletes who overcommit early often collapse before the finish line. The distance punishes uncontrolled aggression more severely than almost any sprint event. By the time athletes exit the bend and enter the final straight, lactate accumulation becomes extreme, and sprint mechanics begin to break down rapidly. In Białystok, the Polish athletes handled this transition far better than the Americans. What immediately stood out was the difference in rhythm control. While the Americans relied heavily on explosive early speed, the Polish runners maintained smoother stride distribution throughout the race. Their body posture remained more stable entering the final 120 meters, and that technical composure became decisive once fatigue started destroying sprint mechanics across the field. The race truly changed after the 200-meter mark. Up to that point, the Americans still looked competitive. Their opening sections were fast enough to remain in contention, and for a brief moment it appeared the race would become a direct battle entering the home straight. But the final 100 meters exposed a massive difference in endurance efficiency. The Polish athletes accelerated when everyone else began slowing down. That was the defining moment of the race. Instead of fighting the track, tightening their shoulders, or losing knee drive, the Polish runners maintained fluid mechanics deep into the closing stages. Their cadence remained controlled, their arm movement stayed compact, and most importantly, their transition between maximum velocity and speed endurance looked far more polished than the Americans. The United States athletes suffered from visible mechanical deterioration late in the race. Their turnover frequency dropped sharply entering the final straight, and their stride length became inconsistent under fatigue. Once that happens in a long sprint, recovery is almost impossible. Every inefficient step increases energy loss, and the final meters become a battle for survival rather than speed. Meanwhile, the Polish runners looked composed and technically disciplined. This was especially important because the 300 meters often rewards athletes with strong 400-meter backgrounds rather than pure short sprinters. The ability to maintain relaxation under fatigue becomes more important than explosive acceleration alone. Poland clearly prepared for the race with a better understanding of pacing and energy distribution. Another crucial factor was curve running. The women's 300 meters places enormous pressure on athletes during the bend, because runners must balance aggression with efficiency while still preserving energy for the final straight. The Polish athletes handled the curve exceptionally well. Their inward lean remained controlled, and they minimized wasted upper body movement while maintaining speed. The Americans, by contrast, looked more aggressive but less economical. Their sprinting style generated tremendous early velocity, but it came at the cost of higher energy expenditure. By the time the race entered its decisive phase, that approach became unsustainable. The home crowd in Białystok also played a major role psychologically. As the Polish athletes began pulling ahead, the atmosphere inside the stadium intensified dramatically. Every meter gained by the home team increased pressure on the Americans, and pressure in long sprinting events often accelerates technical collapse. Athletes begin forcing speed instead of flowing naturally, and that tension destroys efficiency. Poland capitalized perfectly on that momentum shift. The final straight became a complete demonstration of controlled sprint endurance. While the Americans visibly struggled to maintain posture and rhythm, the Polish runners continued driving powerfully toward the line. Their finishing phase looked stronger, more relaxed, and significantly more organized technically. What made the performance especially impressive was the balance between patience and aggression. The Polish athletes never panicked early, despite the Americans' fast opening pace. They trusted their race structure, conserved energy intelligently through the first half, and then unleashed their strongest phase exactly when the race demanded it. That level of discipline is extremely difficult in the 300 meters, because athletes constantly feel tempted to over-attack the opening stages. Poland resisted that temptation and ultimately destroyed the field in the final section. The race also highlighted an important reality about modern sprinting development. The United States continues producing extraordinary raw speed, but events like the 300 meters expose how important technical endurance and pacing intelligence have become at elite level. Pure explosiveness alone is no longer enough against athletes who understand rhythm management and biomechanical efficiency over longer sprint distances. Poland's victory was not based on luck or a single mistake from the Americans. It was a systematic breakdown of the race executed with superior control. Their athletes distributed effort more effectively, protected sprint mechanics under fatigue, and managed the transition into the final straight far better than their rivals. The women's 300 meters remains one of the most underrated events in athletics because it reveals aspects of sprinting that shorter races often hide. Athletes cannot rely entirely on reaction time or pure acceleration. They must combine speed, endurance, efficiency, and mental control across every phase of the race. In Białystok, Poland mastered all of those elements. Against strong American opposition, the home athletes produced one of the most complete long sprint performances of the season, turning what many expected to be a close international battle into a dominant statement victory in front of their own crowd.